this is my review of Slime Diaries. Okay, so right out of the bat, I just want to explain that Shizu comes back in this episode, sort of. I'll explain it a little bit, but not technically not Shizu, but more accurately Shizu's ghost, who shows up and becomes a recurrent character throughout the episode. For the main reason being that apparently Rimuru is holding a Bon Festival, which is, if you guys don't know, is a chance to actually celebrate your ancestors and that kind of thing in Japan. So. And it's somewhat along that lines, and it applies to Shizu since, well, not only is she Japanese, but in addition to that, she found out that Rimuru was actually using her body to basically take a human form and live and become a human, basically. So she decides to pay the Jura Tempest Federation a visit because of all that, because she wants to not only see what Rimuru's new form looks like, but also wants to just explore the city for herself. And obviously nobody notices her because she's a ghost, except for the little goblin girl who may or may not see her. But in any case, and also kind of on a related note, so it has been a recurring joke in this anime that that Rimuru's androgynous appearance leads him to being dressed up in girly clothes a lot, and this episode takes that to its logical extreme, because here's the thing: Shizu shows up, she's curious about what exactly is going on with Rimuru and all of his stuff, and notes that he actually is using her body to actually take on a human appearance. So imagine Shizu's surprise and discomfort when he suddenly starts running through the streets of Tempest dressed in a bunny girl outfit, while Shuna and Shion are chasing after him with more outfits, and he's just exclaiming his discomfort to the world as he runs. Shizu shows up in this episode to get a glance at Rimuru's new body, and also check out Tempest, since she hasn't done that in a while. And one of the first things she sees upon coming into the city is Rimuru spinning around in her form, using her physical form, in a bunny girl outfit, and naturally she's pretty embarrassed. So yeah, as I said, taking the joke to its logical extreme, literally dressing up Rimuru in one of the skippiest outfits a girl can wear. So, and just sending him out, and then just sending him out into the wild as he in a blind panic. That's, long story short, that's just the first scene of the episode. So he has an actual explanation on that Rimuru then begins to explain the Bon Festival to his followers and his close friends. And long story short, he explains it exactly as I explained it to you guys, that the Bon Festival is a chance to actually explore their heritage. And while he points out that it probably won't translate as well because their town doesn't have a whole lot of history, he points out that everybody in the town does, and that it's a good chance to actually revisit their previous history and actually just kind of come to terms with their own past history, but to then share it with the rest of the village to bring them all even closer, which everybody immediately remarks is a great idea. But in case it then cuts to everybody preparing for their various Bon festivals. So it does start off with Hakuryu and Gobta actually going fishing, because Gobta winds up getting stuck with that duty, pointing out that he's kind of not very comfortable with having to fish on his day off. But Hakuryu merely explains the joys of fishing to him, pointing out that the way of the sword and the way of fishing are basically one and the same, and that if you have patience, you will be able to actually catch some fish. And as long as you don't have wicked thoughts in your head, you can also successfully catch fish. Unfortunately, while he's going on all that long-winded bullshit, Gobta actually replaces himself with the scarecrow he made back in episode 2. I mean, it was destroyed, but basically, long story short, he replaces it with a scarecrow version of himself, which Hakuryu remarks is pretty impressive, pointing out that it takes a great deal to actually trick him, and the fact that Gobta actually successfully tricked him is mildly amusing to him. But he remarks that he is going to make his trainings 10 times worse, which causes Gobta to come out of the bushes where he's hiding and remarks that he's still there. He just decided to hide in the bushes and make Hakuryu think he left. But in any case, it then cuts to a scene of Rimuru actually being introduced to his new house, which Shion remarks is too small for him, and that isn't grand for the person who's basically the leader of their entire nation. But Rimuru remarks that he doesn't really care because it's just the right size for him. The closed space makes him feel more at home, and it kind of reminds him of the apartment he had back in Japan. Which he then remembers with fond sadness, remarking that he hasn't really changed all that much, and that he's still trying to go back to his roots, even though, well, as we've established, he can't. So, and Shion understandably notices that Rimuru is upset, but doesn't really push on it. So, but in any case, it then cuts to Rimuru coming out of a little doggy door where he has apparently installed in his office and rolls out to where Benimaru actually is, where he's actually working on his tactitional stuff. And Rimuru points out that when he first met, he didn't really think much of Benimaru, but he kind of felt like a bit of a brazen attack first kind of guy. So, and now he's kind of evolved into an actual skilled general. So, and Rimuru basically tells him this to his face, that he's surprised at how hard Benimaru is working, and asks him what he's actually working on. And Benimaru really remarks that he's actually using the opportunity of peace that they've been having to actually kind of build up their army so that it's basically invincible, as he puts it. He's trying to build it up into an invincible army with no weaknesses, and that any opportunity they have to actually acknowledge their weaknesses and basically surpass them and overcome them is a golden opportunity to do so. At which point Rimuru remarks that he's definitely changed quite a bit. And he remarks that he's still the same person he's met, but then Shuna comes in with tea, and to prove that Benimaru is definitely changed, she then proceeds to leave a smear on one of the cabinets, which Benimaru then aggressively cleans. So, and both Shuna and Rimuru both remark that he has indeed changed. So, I mean, with Shuna just kind of adding a cute little smile because she's just happy that her brother has become such a kind, caring person. But, in any case, it then cuts to all the what are they? The people from the ogre tribe who have since all evolved. But in any case, it then cuts to them actually gathering in a field to actually celebrate Benimaru and Shuna's dad, basically. He was the leader of their goblin tribe, and obviously he was the leader of their ogre tribe, and obviously the entire ogre tribe was wiped out except for the six that we know. They then proceed to have kind of a memorial for him, pointing out that he gave his life to protect them, and he was basically a really good guy. We don't really see him in any of the material, but we get the impression from him. We get the impression here that he was actually pretty chill dude. He was actually pretty well beloved by his people, and in case in point, the 6 remaining members of his people are still gathering to celebrate his. Well, maybe not celebrate is the right word, but rather remember his death and remember what he stood for. At which point, Benimaru decides to ask Hakuryu what his father was like, since Hakuryu knew him since they were younger, and Hakuryu merely points out that while Benimaru has basically become a spitting image of his dad, his dad was apparently a lot worse, and Shuna really remarks in surprise that she didn't know that about their dad, about how he used to be quite the troublemaker back in the day. But Hakuryu really laughs it off and remarks that today is a good day. What else? And also there's a scene where Sui and Suka are supposed to give a report from the Kobold village that Rimuru is apparently signed over, and also the scene just kind of explains all of Sui and Suka's duties, namely that they're secret agents first and foremost, but that they will be turned into assassins if they absolutely have to. But in any case, they're supposed to give this bit. But in any case, it sets up that their job is supposed to be this very serious thing, and then deliberately falls flat on his face because they have to basically take both sides of the. Basically, they have to deliver this message from the Kobold village, And one of them has to play the straight man, the other one has to play the goofy person, and Sui winds up playing the goofy person, and then Rimuru invites him in. We never see how that meeting actually goes, but Suka remarks that Rimuru was amused. But in any case, speaking of Suka, it then cuts to her going to her main village to actually go and deliver a gift from Gabiru to their father. And Chief Gabiru is just really happy that their son is doing well, and obviously he can't come in person because, as we've established many episodes ago, Gabiru was actually banished from setting foot in the Lizardman tribe because, well, obviously he tried to oust his father and tried to fight the orc disaster himself, which did not work out very well. If you guys remember my review of that, it did not pan out very well for Gabiru and his men. And Rimuru basically had to save his ass. So, yeah, but Gabiru is happy that his son is doing well, and remarks that he really must have changed as a person. To which Suka remarks that he hasn't really changed at all, but now he's actually starting to value the idea of hard work and is actually starting to become a more respectable person in that regard. Not so much his attitude. His attitude is basically the same as when we first met him, but from a work ethic standpoint, Gabiru has definitely become a much better person. But in any case, Suka then proceeds to try and go and leave, but Gabiru merely remarks that she actually got a couple of marriage proposals that he wants to go over with her, which she doesn't really want to do, mainly because, as we've established, she only has eyes for Sui at this point. And then as Gabiru tries in vain to find a husband for her, she remarks that this is why she doesn't come home all that often to herself. Obviously not to Gabiru's face, but to herself, that she doesn't come home specifically because of this. But in any case, it also shows a scene with Eren and her party, which is related to Rimuru sharing the backstory of how he gained a human form. Which he does explain in this episode for people who missed it back when it was in season 1. But long story short, he explains how Shizu showed up with Eren and her friends. And then Eren remarks that we've already know that they're not actually her friends per se because of season 2, but Eren and her party members remark that they kind of miss Shizu and are trying to remember her, and Eren herself, he remarks that she had a dream. So they decide to go to Rimuru City and actually pray for her to hope that she's actually doing well. Well, not so much doing well, but to pray that she's looking over them and that she'll continue to support them on their adventures. And obviously Shizu shows up as a ghost and does thank them for their prayers and wishes them good luck. At which point Eren's two bodyguards ask her what kind of dream she actually had. And then Eren points out that that was actually a dream regarding a bunny suit, which Shizu immediately realizes that they're most likely mistaking her for Rimuru, so she quickly realizes that something is definitely wrong. But in any case, it also cuts to Clayman, who is apparently in this episode because to remind us that he exists. But basically, the long story short is during this entire scene, it shows him actually setting the wheels in motion for his master plan in the main anime, and his ultimate goal to actually recruit more demon lords to his cause. And obviously we've already met several of them, but one of them is, if we actually know, is Milim. But in any case, the reason we actually see a scene from him is to actually show a interesting side of him that apparently we're supposed to humanize him for some reason, even though we know he's the bad guy and we know he's kind of remorseless. But for whatever reason, this series actually decided to give him the hobby of baking. I kid you not. They decided, hey, you know what would fit his character really well? Baking. So yeah, he bakes scones for all the demon lords that are supposed to show up to his quote unquote meeting. With Tyr openly remarking that it's clear that he seems happy. So yeah, it's definitely odd as a scene. It's just kind of thrown in here, but is funny, I guess. It's funny because it's Clayman, and you wouldn't expect Clayman to have a hobby like baking, but here it is. So we have to discuss it for this review. But in any case, speaking of Rimuru actually sharing all of the lessons that he's learned and his backstory with Shizu, he actually goes into further detail about what kind of person Shizu was, and kind of just gives an abbreviated version of what happened in the main anime, about how Shizu showed up into his village. She helps fight off a giant monster, and then she kind of succumbed to the power of Ifrit and started to become kind of become Ifrit, and then Rimuru had to save her, and then Shizu gave him her last wishes and then died, and he laid her to rest inside of him. And he remarks that it's because of her that he's actually able to continue appearing in a human form, and remarks that he will never forget that gift. But then, as it turns out, this is actually the scene where he actually winds up being dressed in the bunny suit, because while he was spacing out, remembering his time with Shizu and how much she did for him, he suddenly realizes he's wearing a bunny suit, and quickly panics because he realizes that it was likely Shun and Shion, and sure enough, they have more Alfreds waiting for him, and that's where he actually runs out of the building and into the streets of Tempest, where Shizu actually sees him running around in a bunny outfit. So yeah, we know. So yeah, that's how that scene connects. But in case, after all of this, Rimuru decides to actually greet everybody for the Bond dance, for the Bond festival, and remarks that it is not that it and also it's just a running joke that it's much like me at the moment. It's actually a thing here where he can't actually remember what all the things he's supposed to be celebrating there. So Great Sage has to help him out a little bit at the beginning, but then he starts listing all the accomplishments that everybody has made. And everybody ultimately cheers. And also there's a scene, and also shortly after this, we find out after sunset, we actually cut to Gazelle Dwargo meeting with all of his affiliates, and they immediately discussed that the idea of a nation being led by a slime, but they then proceed to devolve the conversation into what kind of sauce a slime goes with, and eventually our old pal Gazelle Dwargo gets up and decides to go judge the competition for himself, which causes Rimuru to panic because he senses something really, really bad is about to happen to him, and then he proceeds to walk outside to get some fresh air, with Shuna being completely clueless as to what's going on. She notices that Rimuru seems jumpy for whatever reason, but she isn't entirely sure why. So, at which point he runs into Rigor, and they proceed to reminisce about what exactly is going on, and how the nation has come about. And long story short, Rimuru just kind of thanks Rigor, because if Rigor hadn't spoken to him when they first met, right out of the gate when Rimuru came out of that cave, then the city of Tempest probably wouldn't exist, according to Rimuru, because if they hadn't become friends, he likely wouldn't have moved into their village, and they probably likely wouldn't have developed the village into the sprawling metropolis it is now. At which point they decide that they're going to continue to defend the city together, and that they're going to continue to celebrate all the good times that they've had together. But in any case, after all of that, Rimuru then proceeds to, once Rimuru is done with all of his busy schedule stuff that he had to do for the entire day, he decides to have one last little memorial for Shizu. So he shows up. So he goes into his main office. He sets up a little shrine for Shizu, lights some incense, which he remarks isn't exactly the same, but it should work fundamentally just as well. And then he prays for Shizu, pointing out that she gave him, that she's the reason he has his body now, and all of the skills and stuff that she was able to pass on because of that have been monumental in helping him build his city and keeping it safe. And he hopes that one day he'll actually be able to thank her, but since he doesn't feel like he's strong enough to do that, he just apologizes. At which point Shizu materializes as a ghost, and then proceeds to pull Rimuru into a hug, remarking that he gave her a gift that she could never repay in a million years, and she's thankful for that. But then also makes kind of like a little joke that he should probably go easy on the skimpy outfits, which Rimuru really remarks out loud that it's mostly Shion and Shuna's fault, and that Shizu should talk to her. But then begins to wonder who exactly he was talking to, since he clearly heard somebody talking, but has no idea what happened. So it's apparent from here that he actually hears Shizu talk to him and give him words of encouragement and praise. But he has no idea. He had no idea Shizu was actually there. He just heard her speaking, but had no idea who was actually speaking, which is kind of freaky, but it makes sense. But in any case, it then actually ends with a little bit of a preview with everybody remarking about all the states of Tempest and how everything can be drawn together like a raging tide, and that everything could be pushed to the brink of war in an instant. And then even the slightest change could impact history quite a bit. At which point, we actually are properly introduced to Milim for the first time this whole anime season. I kid you not, for second season, 1 through 12, we only see her in flashbacks, and it takes her this long to actually properly show up in the anime in any proper form. She hasn't been in an episode basically the entire time. The only time we see her was in episode 12. And of season 2, and even then that was a flashback and she didn't actually appear. So yeah. It took them this long to introduce Milim. What the hell, man? I mean, it's just that's the long story of it. Milim is going to show up in that episode, and my only really real reaction is finally. It took them this long to reintroduce Milim into the story, and I'm kind of not okay with it, but. In any case, yeah, that's my review of Slime Diaries. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below to keep up to date with what's going on with the channel, and also I kind of post updates on other things over there as well, so be sure to check that out. And also, if you guys want to help support me, then be sure to check out my Patreon. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks, and I'm always saying thanks. So basically, help support me. I will help support you in kind. And not least of which being, I will list you on my website with all of the different things that you actually pay me to support you with. And also, speaking of my website, if you go over there, I have actually posted written reviews of stuff. So yeah. Go check that out if you want. But yeah, basically I've been trying to post more written reviews over there. So because there are some times where I just sit down for a let's play and I just kind of can't get to all of them. So I kind of just write written reviews for some of the games that I'm interested in, but aren't able to play on the channel. So or in some cases play on the channel, but have a lot more to say than I can say in an episode. So. Yeah, go check that out if you want to go see that. And also, if you want to further support me, then be sure to check out my Twitch. I've been streaming every Sunday for the past, 2 weeks, but I've been streaming every Sunday. I'm currently playing Miitopia, so if you, replaying Miitopia since I've already played it, but point being, I'm currently playing Miitopia, so if you guys want to see my thoughts on that game, and also see what I think of the game now that it's been released, then be sure to go check that out. Yeah, the first episode is still up there. It'll probably go in 2 weeks because that's how the archiving system on Twitch works, which is why I'm backing them up here. But in any case, go check that out if you're interested. And also, if you want to see more videos from me, then check them out in the end screen. The top video is the most recent video. It may or may not be this one. Whereas the bottom video is the video recommended to you based on what you've already seen from me. So, if you want to see more of what you like, or try something completely different, then be sure to check both of those videos out. But, in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!